What is going on, my friends? It's great to see you guys. My name is Ryan Williams, back with another one, and in today's video, we are going to talk about how to build a good dividend portfolio. Now, there are a ton of variables to consider when building your dividend portfolio. A few among them include things like, what kind of stocks you choose, how you go about diversifying your portfolio, how much you're contributing to your portfolio, and this is all stuff we are going to go in depth on. In today's video, we're going to get right to the bottom of it all, my friends. And real quick, before we get rocking and rolling, if you guys love dividend stocks, please let me know and do me a quick favor by giving this video a big, fat thumbs up, okay? And while you're at it, why don't you mosey on over a little bit and hit that subscribe button as well so you can stay up to date on all future videos. At this point, I'm putting out 2 videos a week, okay? I put one out every Sunday and I put one out every Wednesday. So you guys are getting a lot of content from me. I don't want you to miss out on any of it, okay? Anyway, thank you so much for doing that. And now, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, guys, so first things first, if you want to have a good dividend portfolio, you've got to have some good dividend stocks, okay? Now, moving on to the next point. Now, I'm just messing with you guys, but seriously, what makes for a good dividend stock? Well, there is somewhat of a criteria you should be looking for when choosing the stocks that you'll be investing in. And some of the things that I personally take into consideration when choosing the stocks I'll be investing in are consistent dividend payouts and consistent consecutive dividend growth year over year. Now, there are other things you'll want to consider, but these 2 things specifically are very, very important to have because a company that is consistently paying out their dividends to its shareholders and furthermore is able to grow those dividends year over year can be looked at, in my opinion, as a more reliable investment than a company who really can't, keep paying their dividends to their shareholders. And to give you a few examples of these types of companies who have a pretty good track record of paying out their dividends and growing their dividends year over year, we can look to companies like Pepsi, which has 48 years of consecutive dividend payments and consecutive year over year dividend growth. So for 48 years straight, they have been paying more in dividends than the prior year. Number 2, we have Southern Company, ticker symbol SO, which has 19 consecutive years of dividend growth and 31 years of consecutive dividend payments. So out of those 31 years of straight payments, they have grown them for the last 19 years. And third, we have Lowe's, which has a very impressive 57 years of dividend growth and dividend payments. Now, normally, guys, when giving an example like this, you would guaranteed hear me mention Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola. Those are like always my go-tos. I feel like I always talk about those 2 stocks. So for this example, I challenged myself a little bit to come up with a few different stocks that I don't normally talk about just to keep it fresh. At any rate, you don't just have to invest in companies that have this long of consecutive dividend payments and dividend growth. I mean, Pepsi, 48 years, Lowe's, 57 years. Not every single company is going to be that dedicated to their dividend, but if you wanted a general rule of thumb, I would look to invest in dividend companies that have at least 10 years of consecutive payments. And if all of those 10 years they've grown it year over year, that's even better. And just to name a few more that meet this 10-year minimum criteria, we can look at Starbucks, which just barely makes the cut. 10 years of growth and 10 years of consecutive dividend payments. We can also look at Microsoft, which has 17 years of growth and payments. And lastly, we can look at Pfizer, ticker symbol PFE, which has been a hot stock lately with 11 years of consecutive dividend growth and 31 years of straight consecutive payments. Anyway, guys, there are a ton of other variables you can consider with these dividend stocks, like payout ratio. Obviously, the share price is important. The profitability of these companies, there's just so many things you could look at, but if you are someone who is new to investing, just looking at the consecutive years of dividend payments and the consecutive years of dividend growth, I believe is a great place to start. Now, building off of this topic a little bit, one other consideration you want to take is of the dividend yield of the stocks you're investing in, which obviously will have an effect on your entire portfolio. At the end of the day, you should be striving for a reasonable dividend yield for your entire portfolio, and even just starting out, it should be completely doable for you guys to get somewhere between 2% to a 4% dividend yield. I even think 3% to 4%, like 3% on the low end, is completely doable as a beginner investor. And if you're choosing stocks on the criteria that we just talked about, theoretically your dividend yield should be increasing year over year because the companies that you've invested in are increasing their dividend payments year over year as well. And using the examples we talked about a little bit earlier, Pepsi has a dividend yield of 2.86% and has a 5-year dividend growth rate of 7.8%, not too shabby. Southern Company has a dividend yield of 4.03%, a little bit higher, but has a 5-year dividend growth rate of only 3.36%. That's not so great. Still growing, but not the best. And Lowe's has a not too pretty 1.2% dividend yield, but has a very impressive growth rate of 16.54%, which means if you bought it now, within a few years, guys, it's gonna grow quite substantially. Now, regarding dividend yields and dividend growth rates, a lot of people underestimate the impact that just 1% can have on your portfolio over the long term, and I'll show you guys a few examples of what I'm talking about. All right, guys, now what we are looking at here is the dividend calculator on marketbeat.com. I swear I am always on this freaking thing, crunching numbers. It is so much fun. So what we are gonna do right now is we're gonna use this to compare how a change of 1% in dividend yield over here and a change in 1% of just dividend growth year over year will affect your portfolio over time. And let's say your portfolio starts out with $10,000. Let's say you have like a 4% dividend yield. Let's say you don't contribute any money at all. Let's say you put in $0. You just put in 10,000 and you let it do its thing, okay? And let's say here that your dividends increase by, let's say 7% every single year. We want a quarterly distribution. Let's say the share price grows 6% every year. That's about average, maybe a little lower. And let's do this across 25 years. So remember, $10,000, let's see with this setup where we end up after 25 years. Just in the first year, you're making $406 in dividends, and then let's scroll all the way to the bottom. After 25 years, starting with $10,000, 4% dividend yield, 7% dividend growth every year, and a 6% share price increase, you will have made almost $57,000 just in your 25th year. And then your portfolio will just be over $300,000. Pretty solid. I mean, this is actually really nice right here, making $55,000 every single year off of one $10,000 investment. It's pretty nice. Now, let's go back up here and let's say, okay, well, maybe your annual dividend yield isn't 4%. Maybe it's 3%. Maybe it's a little bit lower. Okay, let's see how this affects your portfolio, how much lower it'll be. Okay, so scrolling down, in the first year you'll have made $300 instead of, $406. But let's scroll down to the 25 years. So we can see that at a 3% dividend yield instead of a 4% dividend yield, you will make about half as much money in your 25th year. And also your portfolio will be valued about $100,000 less, maybe $130,000 less. So as you guys can see here, having a 1% higher dividend yield really makes a difference across time. Like, it is the difference between doubling your dividend income, essentially. Now let's scroll back up and see how a 1% change in dividend increases will affect your portfolio over year. Let's change this back to 4%. And remember, at this setup right here, 4% yield, 7% increase, 6% share price appreciation every year. At 25 years with this setup, $57,000 in dividend income just in that year, and you're just over $300,000 in your portfolio. Now let's scroll back up and see maybe your annual dividend increase is 1% higher. Maybe it's 8% instead of 7%. Let's see how this affects your portfolio. Okay, let's scroll down. Dang, that's pretty insane. So after 25 years, just by having your dividends increase 1% more every single year, you are increasing your annual dividend income in that 25th year by about $40,000. That's insane. Additionally, you'll have about $120,000 more in your portfolio just from that one little difference. So as you guys can see, 1% either in annual dividend yield or 1% in the amount in increases every year really has a huge impact on your portfolio, which is why it is important to carefully curate the stocks in your portfolio to make sure that the overall portfolio yield is pretty adequate, as well as the annual dividend increase every single year. All right, so hopefully that helped paint a little bit more of a picture for you guys. Like I said, I love using that dividend calculator. I could just plug numbers in there all day. For me, it really helps me map out how much I should be investing and kind of what I should be striving for my own portfolio, just to see how much I might end up with, after a certain amount of time. So super cool. I highly recommend you guys take some time and go play with that. Anyway, the third point that I want to touch on, which I'll keep this one pretty brief because honestly I've talked about it quite a bit, especially in my last couple of videos. But the third point I want to touch on real quick is diversification. You guys have heard me say this before. I don't want to be a broken record, but it is important to have a reasonable amount of diversification in your portfolios. You don't want your portfolio to be too under-diversified, and you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. And on the other hand, you don't want to have so many stocks in your portfolio that you can't keep up with them all, or you can't invest into all of them and build strong positions. And this amount for everyone will be different. Some people do better with a lesser amount of stocks. Some people do better with more stocks. Like one of my buddies on here, shout out JR from the Dividend Tree. Check out his channel, guys. He puts out some great content on dividend stocks, but JR has 180 stocks in his portfolio, and that seems to work for him. But anyway, the point I was trying to make is, as you grow and as you evolve as a dividend investor, you will naturally come to find your diversification sweet spot. But to give you guys a general rule of thumb, because I know that's what you're looking for and that's what's going to be most helpful, if you are just starting out, don't go too crazy by adding a buttload of stocks in your portfolio. You'll be best served by keeping it, kind of moderate, somewhere between 10 stocks on the low end and maybe 30 stocks on the high end. Even that's a little bit too high in my opinion, but 10 to 30 is a pretty comfortable range. Personally, guys, right now I have 17 different dividend stocks in my portfolio, and at least for the foreseeable future, I will be keeping that number under 20 total stocks. That seems to be the sweet spot for me, just based on how much I'm able to contribute to my portfolio at this time. Like I said, guys, I have talked so much about diversification in my last couple videos. I don't want to sound like a broken record to you guys. But if you are new to this channel, maybe you haven't seen some of my recent videos, I will link one of them right here where I talk a little bit more on diversification and how I go about diversifying my own portfolio. All right, guys, now like a good, strong, growing tree needs to be consistently watered, a good, strong, growing dividend portfolio needs to be consistently contributed to. Whether you can invest once a week, whether you can invest once a month or once a year, it doesn't really matter, but you need to get on some sort of regular routine schedule that you can adhere to where you're contributing money into your portfolio. You need to feed that bad boy if you want it to grow. My personal approach to this, guys, I invest $100 every single week into my portfolio, but I know people who invest once a month, and it's all good. At any rate, you guys have common sense. I'm sure you can understand the difference that consistently investing into your portfolio can make over time. And once again, I want to show you guys some examples real quick, just so it helps paint a little bit of a picture. All right, guys, now we are back on the dividend calculator here, just using the same exact setup we used in the previous example. And just in case you guys forgot, in this example with a starting $10,000 principal, 4% dividend yield, 7% growth, dividend growth, 6% share price appreciation, and $0 of any sort of investment, we are left with almost $57,000 in the 25th year, just in the 25th year from dividends, and a total portfolio value of just over $300,000, about $325,000 actually. Now remember, the purpose of this example is to show how much consistent contributions to your portfolio might make. So in this example that we just looked at, that's with a $0 annual contribution. But let's say you decide you want to start investing $100 a month, okay? And you're going to do that across the 25 years. So that's going to be $1,200 a year. And if you do that with these settings for 25 years straight, you will be left with, at the end, let's scroll down. Oh boy, okay, $112,000 of annual dividend income just in that 25th year. And your portfolio will be double what it was without any sort of contribution. In the previous example, you had like $325,000. In this one, you have almost $650,000. So quite a big difference, guys. Now, let's scroll back up here, and let's say you're feeling really froggy, okay? And you decide, you know what? I think I can do $200 a month. So that's $2,400 a year. And instead of having $112,000 in annual dividend income in that 25th year, you would have, let's see, you would have $168,000 in that 25th year. So $40,000 more just by investing an extra $100 a month. And keep in mind, this grows every single year. So that's only $40,000 more just in that 25th year. You know, and the good thing about dividend investing is, let's say you have this as basically your new income, okay? This is what you're gonna live off of every year. Well, let's say that you don't let's say you don't need that all $168,000. Let's say you live off $50,000. That leaves like an extra $120,000 just being reinvested back into this portfolio, and that's just going to compound things so much quicker. I didn't even mention this, guys. Your balance just by investing an extra $100 a month is going to be almost $1 million. So like an extra $400,000 more than you had just by investing $100 a month, and an extra over $600,000 more than you would have had if you didn't contribute anything at all. So as you can see, possibly even more than a difference in 1% here or there, how much you can contribute and how consistently you can contribute to your portfolio has a huge impact on the end result of your portfolio. And in the end, in the grand scheme of things, it really will make the difference between how much wealth you have when you go to retire, and can even, you know, save you a ton of time. It's by investing more into your portfolio now, you will be able to retire, or you'll be able to live off of your dividends at a much faster rate than you would have if you didn't invest anything at all, except for that starting principal of $10,000 or whatever it is. So hopefully that helped paint a little bit better of a picture for you guys. And you know, everything that we talked about today, from choosing reliable dividend stocks to making sure your portfolio has a solid dividend yield, to the amount of diversification and the rate at which you contribute into your portfolio, it really takes a combination of all these things to build a wholesome, good, solid, growing dividend portfolio. And if someday your goal is to live off of your dividend income and you know, reap the fruits of your patience and your labor that you put into building this thing, then these are all things that you will want to take into consideration. And you know, we covered a lot of ground in this video today, and it might sound like it's a whole to-do, it's a whole bunch of things you need to worry about, but I promise you guys, especially for those newer investors out there, once you get started, that's really the hardest part. Getting started and staying disciplined and staying consistent. Really, at the end of the day, guys, I mean, I think Warren Buffett said it. He was asked by Jeff Bezos, you know, why doesn't anyone invest the way that you do? Because it works. And Warren Buffett said something to the extent of, because no one wants to get rich slow. And that's so true. I mean, this strategy right here it's not a get rich quick kind of thing, but if done correctly and if approached with a whole bunch of patience and, you know, a vision for what you want your life to look like down the road, years from now, it's totally possible. The good thing about this is it starts off slow and then it builds and it snowballs, it compounds over time. And the more money that you have in your portfolio, the quicker that it's going to grow. And with that said, I know I just spit a lot at you guys right now, but that about wraps it up for this video. We've covered a whole bunch of ground today, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this, and I genuinely hoped you learned something from, from indulging me for the last handful of minutes. And real quick, before I sign off, if you guys have any questions about anything that we covered in this video, do not hesitate to leave me a comment below. That's what I'm here for. I would love to help you guys out with this. And also, if you have not done so already and you enjoyed watching this video, please leave a like before you go. It really means a lot, and it really helps contribute to the growth of this channel. By leaving a thumbs up, it helps this video get pushed out to other people on YouTube, helping to further grow this channel, which I'm working really hard to do. So anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. It means a lot. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.